Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris the High Guy Jacobs, and today we're taking a look at Archipelago Raid. We're going to take a look at some tips, some tricks, and then some battle footage, all together in one nice contained little package as I stumble over my words. We're going to start first and foremost with the first absolute iteration of the Elite Scavengers in the Archipelago event. If you don't know what the Elite Scavengers are, they are the armored soldiers, the armored zombies. You can see them, the big zombie there on the screen. And they are important because they drop 4,000 cement when you defeat them. Why is cement important? That's how you build towers. You can't build towers in the Archipelago Island without collecting cement. Now, the only other options for you to collect cement are to farm normal nodes where you only earn, I believe it's 8 or 9 cement per finished node. You can also get the normal scavengers, which will appear every 2 hours on the even hour stroke at the level 6s and level 7s, which will only drop 300 cement total each one. You can also farm base warehouses where you can again only farm, I believe it's 300 cement. So being able to capture these elite scavengers at 2 o'clock and 14 UTC every day makes for a beautiful little cement gift. 2,000 cement dropped in each one, and you get 4,000 dropped from each one, 2,000 in each little package there that you see. Now, if people have been asking me, where do they see the time? If you look on my screen in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a white date. It says UTC 12/11, and then currently it says 2:04. That is the game clock. That currently means it is 2 o'clock UTC. The universal time universal time clock, I think. I don't remember exactly what the meaning of it is, but it's what the game runs on. And in our alliance, we base everything off of UTC in order to make scheduling easy. Now, in the entire span of what you'll see for those zombies, you only get 3 dropped, okay? Whether they drop on the north, or whether they drop on the east, west, and south, versus the north, east, and west, I believe it is, or maybe it's random. I don't remember exactly how that works, but there's only 3 that drop, so you have to make sure that you catch them. On this one, on the first one, we were the only legion that was active, so we ended up taking all 3. Now, you ready for some tips? When you're taking cement, don't give cement to your basic players. Don't give those big cement, 2,000 cement, to your slow players. Don't give them to anybody carrying any ranged, pardon me. Give it to your riders, give it to your faster people. Because if you're carrying cement, you take more damage and you're slowed down. Now, in the process here of carrying all that cement back, you want to make sure you go back as a group. In that group, I was able to notice that there was a collection of troops that were just sitting here. So I informed the masses, let them know to come get some extra points as we were on our way to collecting the other scavengers. So we brought some troops over here. Atamoto goes in first and unfortunately gets swarmed 5v1. It's almost like they were waiting for him. So then I come in, I stupidly start targeting the infantry first and then quickly start targeting the ranged Lewis there second, which is obviously what you want to get out of the fight first. You want to get them out of the fight, followed by the riders, followed by the infantry. You want to make sure that you're always getting rid of the troops that do the most damage before you start focusing on the others. Now, as we come back in, we start to see a lot more troops coming in for the swarm to get those extra points, which will obviously set you up in Archipelago Raid for the War Meets War, as well as the overall point functions and things like that. Now, once we go ahead and kill those, we're going to jump right over here and go straight to collecting the remaining of those regular scavengers. These are just armored scavengers. These ones, when they die, as you'll see, they only drop to 125. So it's only 250 per armored scavenger, not 300, sorry. So you only get 250 per each one, which is exactly why the Elite Scavengers at 2 o'clock and at 14 are so very, very important. After we collect this cement, we're going to go ahead and collect these ones. If you haven't noticed already, my ADHD has stopped my troops from running numerous times. They end up just standing in the field doing nothing, and I'll make several mentions of that as I've gone through this replay, just because my ADHD, I guess, is pretty on point when I'm trying to do things. Like here, for example, they're finally over there by the time, it takes everybody else to get there. And Raigoro is super slow, so always be careful of that. Now we've got Santa Eggwol on his way out. This guy has been a thorn in my side this entire AR. I've seen him probably in every single fight. Same with Crazy Santa, who you kind of get a little bit of recognition here because you obviously were always kind of right where I was all the time in the fights, the same fights that I was. So it was good to see you there, but in the same situation, y'all are a little bit stronger than me, so it was kind of a pain in the butt to see. And as you'll see, I make a couple of stupid maneuvers here in order to hopefully get some more points, but in the long run, just sacrificing. Number one, I forgot to move closer, so I'm still, my shelter is still too far away from the gate, which means my troops have to run a really long way for them to get back, and they have to get back if I'm going to be able to reset my troop stock, my troop numbers, for example, and then come back out fighting again. Because remember, I'm an infantry main, but I only have tier 6 infantry. I only have tier 6 infantry. I don't have tier 5. I only don't have tier 6 riders or tier 6 ranged. I'm only infantry. So my riders are weak. My ranged are weak. They're only used for one thing, and that's filling rallies or garrisons. Pardon me. You're used for two things, filling rallies and garrisons. But a couple of times I end up sending them in the field for stupid reasons and giving not only points to the enemy, but sending it on the hospital bills to myself. So I'm recalling right now so that I have the capability of sending out a nice strong line that I'll be able to participate with. But I make the stupid decision a couple of times here, not only to move closer first, but to send out my riders as well. So I'm still waiting for Raigoro to get back. He's super slow. This little skirmish that we've got going up on the top between us and Crimson is looking like it's petering out, so I'm a little annoyed I missed out on some of the action, because obviously I wanted to get some points too. I did end up at 114 million by the end of the event, but most of that came from tower fighting and open field fighting during the main fight times, which is something I think is interesting about AR. Some people have asked me, how do you negotiate an AR? Most people are going to go, typically, because the way that it works is that when you come to your Legion, only one Legion ends up getting two Legions end up getting phase 1 rewards. And those are the 2 Legions that are in control of the level 7 towers. So you kind of have to do some negotiating with your first, who you think you're going to be allying with or planning to ally with, to kind of see who's going to be able to take those the first capture rewards on the tower and who's going to earn the phase 1 rewards. Because obviously there's 2 kinds of rounds of rewards. So there is some negotiating that goes in. One of the biggest things is obviously based on the War Meets War points. A lot of people do the Legion with the most players in the top 50, but I'll be the first one to tell you I'm not a huge fan of that, because just like me, I'm very strategic in my fighting. Now, first off, if you notice here, I'm trying to get closer, and I'm just getting a little annoyed that I can't find a place closer to the front, but I finally find one here. But watch this, and I still don't understand this. This doesn't make sense, but I go ahead and find a spot, and I go click, and it says I can't move to a special area. So I click to the other side, can't move to a special area. Well, I can't, what's so special about that area? I finally find a spot in the middle that it allows me to come to, so I'm a little bit closer to the gate. So that kind of thing really, really bothers me. And from there, I totally forgot what we were talking about. But I'll come back to here because I'll show you. Here's the point where I come in and I send my riders out, which is ridiculous of me. I send my riders out for no reason, knowing that they're going to get destroyed, right? Just because I want to have that second march out there. But here's a prime example of why you don't send your weak marches out when you know that they're not going to do good. Watch what happens here to my riders. They're going to come out first because they're obviously faster, I believe. Unless Miyamoto Adut is one of the faster ones, because they're typically about the same. Yeah, so Miyamoto Adut comes out first, which is fine. That's my tier 6. I want them to come fight. But watch how fast my riders just get destroyed. You can see the HP on the right-hand side of the block. Look how fast it just goes down, because it starts to get focused, and then they just get sent home. So it's just points I've given to the enemy for no reason. It didn't earn me very much at all. And all it did was it earned to the target on my back, because now they think they can kill me, so they're going to go ahead and focus my tier 6 as well and send them home as well, which is exactly what happens. And I can't blame them for that, because I would have done the exact same thing. Here we are, looking through some reports I've got against Santa Egwol. This guy was a machine against me. Obviously, you're looking at some of his things. He's got a level 15 attack for his riders. His riders are pretty strong. When I was, and that's obviously where I was focusing more, because, you know, you want to get rid of those damage dealers first, and then that's just the subsequent damage that they're able to leave out behind. I was getting some nice, obviously, AoE effects thanks to Miyamoto. So I was able to get some nice exchanges where I wasn't getting hit and I was doing some nice damage. Obviously not in these reports that you'll see here. But Santa Egwol, well done. You were a thorn in my butt. You did really good at doing exactly that. And I got to give you a credit for obviously doing that. Now at this point, I'm just sending some troops to heal because like we mentioned, the entire first Elite Scavengers are done. Those first 2,000 or 4,000 cement has been collected, and we're going to move on to the next step. Now, the next big thing that you're going to be looking at, especially the next big event, outside of the Elite Scavengers that happened every day, is going to be your Chainsaw Zombies. Chainsaw Zombies happen, I believe, on the third day before the gates unlock, so you can take them. At which point you're basically fighting for these Chainsaw Zombies that give you points, that give you, if you end up taking it, give you fragments, shards, and then a nice little attack and damage buff. For the Legion that ends up taking it. So as you can see, these Chainsaw Zombies spawn here. You get a Chainsaw Commander and then a handful of Chainsaw Zombies around them. Once you start attacking one, they all start attacking you. But you want to basically focus the commanders first. If I can give you any advice, you focus the commanders first, then you attack everybody else. A couple of other things people have asked me, how do you target when you have so many troops on the screen? Well, there's a couple things. You can either go ahead and what's it called? I can't even remember the word. But you can basically remove the majority of the units from the screen. It's called optimizing. That's what it's called. So you can optimize the event, at which point you're only seeing like one troop from every march instead, just the leader, instead of getting all of the troops, which will make things a little bit easier to see, especially when you have such a massive group like this. This is the first Chainsaw Zombies of the event, so we wanted to make sure that we had a really, really strong showing for it, because unfortunately they happen every 4 hours for the entire day, right? And if you're not on for every single one, and if you're not pushing for every single one, you can fall behind very, very quickly. As you'll see, I've got the next two recordings, or the next two parts that we're going to go through. The first one here is just the actual Chainsaw Zombies themselves, and what it kind of looks like when we were able to kind of one-sided take as many as we could. And then the next one we'll see a little bit more when we had a little bit more response from the Crimson side when they were coming in to fight us as well. So as you can see, I'm just looking around the map, looking for any other gray players, so that I can look for other targets. We're starting to move our troops in to fight off the incoming Crimson insurgency. But obviously we're just going down to kind of capitalize on all of these Chainsaw Zombies that we can, focusing on the Chainsaw Commander, then focusing on any of the soldiers. And if you haven't seen, there is a nice little trick. If you click on the image of the thing that you want to attack, so you click on the image of the Chainsaw Commander, you can attack it directly from there, just like I've done here. And then if you can click just like I have there, you can click and select multiple, and then all of your troops will go ahead and do that instead of having to drag and drop or double click and drag. So there's easier ways to kind of organize your troops even while you have a ton of troops out. Okay. So now we're just moving over to the next Chainsaw Zombies that we can take, and obviously just trying to take as many as we can. This is a war of attrition. Now, the good part here is that you don't lose troops to the zombies. They're not damaging troops, so there's no resource build to heal. But as you can see, my tier 5 troops are going down much quicker than my tier 6 troops. And if I was to get caught up in the battlefield, those lines would end up getting destroyed pretty quickly. The zombies do a decent amount of damage, especially when there's a lot of them. So you do kind of want to be careful. That's why you want to do these in groups. If you don't have a group big enough to kill Chainsaw Zombies in a group, one of the clear ways that you can do this in the lower levels is send out one march and have that one march hit the zombies and then run away from the zombies. And you can actually kind of what they call kite the zombies all the way back into your area, where then people can swarm them, or you can get them closer to your checkpoints so your marches don't have to run back and forth so quick. But here we are, moving on to another one, collecting points. And again, there's rewards just for killing chainsaw zombies, so don't forget about these. A lot of people ignore them. Don't. They're super, super important, and they need the entire Legion to take care of them. They happen every 4 hours, so right at reset, and then for every 4 hours following for the next day. Make sure that you're on them every single time that they spawn. So we're out here grabbing the last ones that we can before the end of this event. And then obviously we're going to see if we can get some more fights in the field. But what you'll see here very quickly once I come back is my dumbass basically leaves my troops in the field for a heck of a long time. It ends up being something like 16 minutes that I cut out of footage where my troops are just standing there. And I totally actually blame Crimson for not taking advantage of that and killing me sooner. They totally could have, because I was not aware that I had left them out in the field, which is something that happens often. If you know anything about me, my ADHD does its own thing, and my troops pay the consequences. Subsequently, so do my resources. So we're back up. I'm collecting out these last chainsaw zombies and the last chainsaw soldiers so that we can obviously get those points, and we'll show you how those stack up here in a second. But it's really kind of cool to see all the Legion come together and see all those troops swarming the screen. And then when it starts to lag because there's so many troops on the screen, it really feels kind of cool. Because I do have a decent computer. I mean, it's something like 5 or 6 years old now. But it's still pretty good. Like, it still hums through everything, and it gets the job done. So once you start to see so many troops on the field and you start to see them running. But here's a good example. We ended up, after the first round, we ended up dominating the first round. We ended up with 80 points compared to 30 coming out of second place out of the gold region. But by the end of the Chainsaw Zombie day, we ended up at second place with gold taking first. So it's one of those things where if you don't focus on it consistently throughout, no matter how good you do on one or the other, see, there's a big jump. And actually, let's go back and see. Well, we can't actually because we're running the footage. But there's a decent jump at how long my troops were just standing there like a total knobhead. Just openly in the field. And like I said, I think when I took the footage down, it was like 10 or 12 minutes. I don't remember, but you can comment if you actually catch that. Comment down below how long it was. It was a long time. I remember thinking it was a long time after I had running it at 500% speed or 500 times speed, and I could literally watch the zombies, drawing patterns on the ground with how long it took for them to move. Now here we're just going to go back and get some of those base warehouses. With what we had left, chase some of the guys around. They're just, at this point, they're cutting us around because they're moving too fast in the field, much faster than I could anyways. So we're going to go back and just collect those base warehouses. As you can see, those base warehouses look different, so don't forget to collect those when you can. Collect some rewards as you're doing it as well. I probably could have cut this, but, collect them if you can't. Don't forget your privileges subscription. It's such an important one if you're looking for something to buy. Okay? Now, into our last part of this video. This is going to be round 2 of the Chainsaw Zombies. Okay, we're going to see a little bit more fighting in the field because Crimson wakes up a little bit, as does Gold, so we don't end up getting near as many. We end up actually losing out this one, but we start to see that Blue is nowhere to be seen. They're not doing anything, and now we're having to fight Crimson and Gold in the process. So we start off with a bit of a fight up at Gold's level 6 checkpoint. Of course, they haven't been able to capture it yet because it's not unlocked. So we're doing a little bit of a dance back and forth, trying to bait them into attacking a little bit, trying to come onto our side so we can go ahead and take advantage of the transfer between the gate. Because unfortunately, there's a little bit of a bug. Once you get past the gates, like the line of the gate, you have to travel all the way through it before you can come back. And in that time, you can be attacked. So you want to kind of bait around and play around with that a little bit, which, as you can see, is something that we were doing. They end up pushing out a little bit. We end up pushing back. I've got my Miyamoto sit here with Thunder, and then Adut is rocking with Tom, just to be able to give me a little bit more sustain in the field, a little bit more damage, knowing that I'm not going to be doing near as much as what everybody else is, but I'm still able to do some points as long as I'm not the one being targeted. Russ West is kind of just standing there at the top watching, so I decide to pick on him a little bit, so he runs away. And then I'm not sure exactly why this player brings their ranged in, but they bring their ranged in. We decide to send it home pretty quickly. All of a sudden, Crimson comes out with a force, so we got to run. We're running back in the process. And unfortunately, again, that's Egg Wool. That's right on my butt, I believe. I I can't really tell sometimes because of how fast things are moving. But it could have been, I mean, it's definitely one of them, one of the ducks. And then once you see a duck, I typically either, if it's against me, I'm running, unless I test them out first. But on this one, we have much less of a time. If you look up at the top right, we've got 8 minutes before the chainsaws come. So this was kind of more just like a skirmish beforehand. So we're just going to go ahead and meet, and you'll see the time jump a little bit as I cut some of the footage. Because it's 8 minutes, I'm not just going to sit and scroll through. Looking right now for any other grays. They're not seeing any out throughout the field. So now we're just waiting. We decide to move the whole units up forward because obviously we're waiting for those chainsaws to appear again. We want to take as many from Crimson as we can. Our whole goal is not necessarily to take as many as we can for ourselves. Well, it is, but we know that we're going to have to fight Gold. So we're going to try to take as many from Crimson as we can, knowing that we can beat them every time. And then, so that's exactly what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the ones closest to Crimson, and then the ones closest to us as well. So we've got the two options. We're going to move to the farthest ones first. To try to capture those. You'll see the one tries to drag them a little bit, and you see how he hit them, and now they're all still following him. They were following him for a while. You can use that technique to what's called kite the zombies towards your area, so that they're closer to your area or to your gate and things like that. So you have less of a distance to travel. But we had so many numbers here, so we just moved them all in to kill the zombies while we did that. And again, you can click on the image for the zombie. If you also look, but when you see the image, if you look at the bottom one here, there's a little, like a very faint red line that's up pointing to where it is. So if you're on the select all function for your troops, you can still follow that line and click a close to it, and you should still be able to target it if you don't want to do the drag and drop, or if you don't want to do the click and select all. There's lots of options to be able to get you to target what you need to target when you have tons of troops. So we ended up getting the first two pretty easily. Crimson's starting to move south. We're going to go back, grab those quick. In the process, start to realize maybe we should go for some southern ones as well, because the walk is going to be a lot farther. So while we're taking out those first ones, we start to see some break off. I'm going to catch that a little bit later and start to break off as well. We're going to break off to the second group down here and start making our way south. Because again, the whole purpose is to get as many of those chainsaw zombies as you can. And you do that in a group. So we've got one group taking out the top ones there. We know that there's not going to be any enemy presence there, so we can break off into a second group and start the second group of zombies. As many as you can get. Every 4 hours, folks. It's no joke. All right, so now we're going to go pay attention now to where we're targeting, making sure that we're getting that zombie commander first. Not only does the zombie commander give you a ton more points, individual points as well, but they're the stronger targets. So you want to kill them first and then target any of these soldiers outside of that. So the commander's down. Now we're focusing on the regular zombies. What I've also done is, if you noticed, I've gone and optimized it. So we're no longer on the regular full game. We've now optimized it on the low. So now all we're seeing is effectively one leader from every march. So you have it's less CPU, less hard on your CPU or on your phone or what have you. You can see a little bit better. You can target a little bit easier this way. If you like to play this way, it's not a problem. The only problem I have with that is that you can't really tell who is co-leading unless you watch them use a skill and you're paying attention, because otherwise it doesn't work. Now, as I'm panning around, they're still working on those. We're all done, but instead of going back, we decided it's a good idea to push towards this last stand of monsters, or this last group of zombies. So we start marching just kind of at the same time that Crimson is doing the same. So in the process, we end up getting late to the zombie. They end up getting the zombie, but we end up getting the better upper hand on them in the process, because we end up burning out a lot of their troops. You'll see a lot of them returning dead, which, in my opinion, although we know that we didn't get the chainsaw zombie points, we ended up getting the points from getting the kills, and then obviously filling up their hospitals and things like that faster, which is exactly what we'd like to do. So all in all, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. We don't get the chainsaw kills, but we do get the hero kills and things like that. And I'll be the first one to say I'm pretty happy with my own performance. I did manage 114 million points overall, which is more than a 1-to-1 ratio. And I honestly think that everyone should be shooting towards a 1-to-1 ratio. What do I mean by that? Well, basically you should be looking at the same amount of points as what you have might. So if you look at the top left, my might, it all bounces, right? It bounces depending on how many troops I have and stuff like that. But it ranges anywhere from 90 million. You could be 85 if I've got 0 troops left, all the way up to 104 million, 105, I think is my highest. So if you can get anywhere more than that, or, you know, around that level, I was shooting for 100 million this time. I ended up 114. You know, that should be considered a win. It doesn't happen very often. There's a lot of players that don't, because it is kind of a hard thing to accomplish. And it depends on your own might. If you're, 13 million, 14, 15 million, and you're fighting against 100 million players, well, yeah, it's going to be tough for you to get points because you're not getting very many kills and things like that. And you don't got tier 5s, tier 6s to be able to fight back. So it gets a little bit difficult. But this is why I also suggest every player to find the right alliance for you. It's not just about, who's got the most active alliance and all this kind of stuff and who's got the strongest alliance. It's really about finding an alliance that fits within your own might profile, that allows you to participate and compete to the best of your ability. Unfortunately, what happens in this game a lot is that you end up getting tied to alliances because of friends and things like that, which isn't bad because the community is so great. But then you end up in situations where, like in our situation, in our alliance, we've got a handful of players who are under 50 million trying to fight 150 million players, which isn't fun for them. And I don't blame them. Now, as you can see here, I'm not running back the long way. I'm coming back the short way. There's 2 ways to return your troops. You can either take them back the long way and run them, or you can run them into the opponent and then have them come back the fast way. And I decided very quickly that I was just going to come back the fast way and punch one of these players who, in my opinion, has a really ridiculous name. If you've got stupid names like V Card Stealer, do yourself a favor and change it. That's just a ridiculous process. There's really nothing nice about that, so don't do it. Now, I send these troops home, get some points in the process, but it's easier than running them all the way. There's some of the reports, they aren't really great. I end up losing, but again, it's not necessarily about that. It's about bringing them home soon. That being said, folks, that is it for me today. I really do appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe button, and don't forget, love, peace, chicken grease, and until next time, stay lifted.